Core Measure 3, Maintain Problem List. The objective of Core Measure 3 is to ensure that providers are maintaining an up-to-date list of a patient's problems and their current and active diagnoses. The measure requires that more than 80% of all unique patients seen by the eligible provider have at least one entry or an indication that there are no known problems for the patient recorded in their structured data. Now, inside prognosis, this is known as the past medical history on the patient's face sheet. The requirements for attestation are numerical. The denominator is the total number of unique patients seen during the reporting period. And the numerator, which in this case requires an excess of 80% to be deemed compliant, is the number of patients within the denominator who has at least one entry on their chart indicating a problem or an indication that there is no known problems for that patient. Now, within the numerator, there's a couple of ways of being compliant. There's the medical problems or the actual ICD diagnosis code. So we're going to see this as we toggle into prognosis. We have our chart open here for our patient, and if you'll notice in the upper right on her face sheet, the past medical history is empty. So as we are looking at Amy Esgrove's chart, she is not compliant with Core Measure 3 because the past medical history is not indicated one way or the other. So to be compliant, we're going to click on the past medical history, and we have a couple of options. One, if there are no known problems for Amy, she has not admitted to anything and we're not aware of any, we simply click the checkbox here in the lower left that states no known history. And when we update it, we will notice now our face sheet is populated with the phrase no known medical history, and you'll notice that the check mark is selected. And that is important to keep in mind because this is a history item. It is not encounter driven. You may see your patient only once within the reporting period or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. The requirement is only that it be looked at least once during that reporting period. However, if you have not acknowledged that you reviewed it by clicking the checkbox, you will not get credit for it. So it is very important that you remember to do that, regardless of what the content is. That will at least acknowledge that within the reporting period it was reviewed. Now I'm going to go back into the past medical history, and let's say that Amy does have a problem. So instead of indicating no known history, across the top here we have two different options. We have the ailments and the ICD. If, first of all, I click the ailment option, it is going to bring up a alphabetical listing of problems that have been defined in the database. These are not associated to diagnoses in any way, shape, or form. They're just symptoms. So we're going to say that she has allergies. And I'm going to click OK. Again, our face sheet cell for past medical history is selected as having been reviewed, and it is populated. Therefore, I am compliant for meaningful use. Because the definition, you'll recall, was simply that the doctor maintains a list of problems. I'm going to go back to that definition real quick, though. Look at the last part of the objective. CMS actually inserts the verbiage that you must maintain not only a problem list, but a list of current and active diagnoses. The second bullet point here under the numerator refers to the audit conditions of Core Measure 3. This goes beyond the definition. The matter of compliance is strictly based on the measure requirements that we see here at the top in the table, which is that it not be blank, that it be populated with an indication that there's no problems or at least one problem, but it doesn't specify diagnoses. However, if you read the verbiage of the measure, the audit conditions are worded such that their eligible provider is actually required to maintain a current list of diagnoses, past, current, and active. So even though Core Measure 3 is at the chart level and is not considered at an encounter level, the audit conditions actually warrants that you update it on every visit. So I'm going to go back in here to the face sheet one more time, if I first of all go to past medical history, you'll notice that there is an ICD option as well as ailment. So if you do want to employ the front office staff to have this responsibility, instead of going under ailments, they need to go under the second plus sign here for ICD. So we entered allergies before. Let's go ahead and look for allergies this time under the ICD search. And there are none because the ICD code wants you to be very specific. So the better option for a doctor to pass not only compliance but also the audit conditions is on the assessment screen, where the doctor is automatically going on every visit anyway to enter his ICD for assessment and plan. We're going to go ahead and choose the specific ICD code here, and we're just going to go ahead and say bronchitis for the sake of this video. Notice to the right of my ICD details, I have an MH checkbox, and that MH stands for medical history. So if I click that option and save it, that automatically populates today's current and active ICD that I have just rendered, automatically now puts it into my past medical history. So in that way, I can actually kind of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, because not only am I passing the compliance of populating it, but I'm also meeting those audit conditions of having an actual ICD code present. So to summarize core measure 3, we want to first of all make sure that we've entered at least one or more symptom or ICD code on our face sheet. If there are no problems, we want to make sure that we have indicated that by selecting the No Known Medical History checkbox. We also want to make sure that we are marking our face sheet cell past medical history as having been reviewed at least once during the reporting period. And then finally, we want to make sure, if we're the provider, that we are selecting that MH checkbox on our assessment screen when we enter our ICD code, and that will ensure that we are also being compliant with the audit conditions of this measure.